Hello there, welcome to Reflections, television program sponsored by the Paducah Cooperative Ministry. My name is Heidi Sir Heinrich, and I am one of your hosts this morning, and I would like to introduce our second host. This is Scott Dossett. Scott is a PCM volunteer and a pretty interesting guy. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a few things about yourself.
We're new to the area in Paducah. We just moved here just about less than a year ago. I'm a former worship leader and pastor. I currently work with Market House downtown. We're working on Les Miserables, and I'm the bishop, so it's a little bit of a familiar role for me. And I also teach driver's ed, so if you have students who need some driver's ed teaching, I'm happy to help out in that area. I work with Fred Myers. So.
Nerves of steel, right?
Nerves of steel.
I'm so glad to have you hosting with us today.
Thank you.
And Scott and I are welcoming Laura Roberts. Laura is the director of Starfish Orphan Ministry. And Laura, thank you so much for being with us today, and we're really looking forward to hearing about the Starfish program. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having us. We're anxious to share about it.
Well, let's start with a simple question. Is Starfish Orphan Ministry a local entity? Is it unique only to this community?
It is.
Okay.
It is. We started it in 2006, and we serve the local community and in other countries around the world.
Okay, so you are a founder
Yes.
of the Starfish Orphan Ministry.
Yes, there is another lady, Stacy Davis, who also co-founded it back in 2006.
Okay.
But she has another ministry now.
Okay, and tell us the mission and the vision of Starfish Orphan Ministry.
Well, we want to not only bring about awareness to the 150 million plus children in the world that do not have a family, but we want to give people easy ways in which they can help.
Excellent.
We find out that people, when they hear those numbers, like 150 million children in the world without a family.
How do you make sense of that?
Right, the people get overwhelmed really quickly.
Right.
So we have to follow that immediately with how you can get involved and make a difference.
Good.
And people can make a difference.
Okay. Well, how did this come about? What caused you to create this ministry? What brought it around?
Well, my husband and I had two daughters, and they were 13 and 18, and we were starting to feel that empty nest coming on, and we had friends that shared with us about a baby boy in Guatemala that needed a family, and we decided to adopt him, and we had a very troubled process, and it took way longer than we expected, and things did not go smoothly, and because of that we found ourselves going to an orphanage in Guatemala. And when I walked in the orphanage, I just saw all these little children who were reaching for anyone, for comfort, for various reasons, and it just broke my heart. And I don't know, I was never quite the same after that. But had that not happened, had we not had a difficult process, we would have probably brought our son home and just lived happily ever after. But when we did bring our son home, I could not forget what I had seen. And I just felt led to do something, to try to make a difference for children that don't have families.
So how did you begin?
Well, Stacy Davis and I started meeting and praying for orphans. Her and her husband had adopted from the Ukraine, and we started meeting and praying weekly for orphan children. And when we would pray, we thought, well, if we're going to pray sincerely for orphan children, we need to learn more about them. We need to know how many there are. We need to know where they are. We need to know what the Bible says about them. So we thought there's probably like 10 million, and the Bible probably mentions it a dozen times. And then when we researched, we found out that there at the time were estimates were 147 million. and the Bible mentioned it over 60 times, either orphans or fatherless or adoption. And so we thought we would have known that, having adopted internationally, been very involved in our churches, and so we were just horrified by the numbers and the conditions. So we thought, well, we'll just bring about awareness, and then people will rise to the occasion and do something. But again, we found out that very quickly, when people hear those things and awareness is brought about, they just get very overwhelmed. It's a very easy thing to get overwhelmed with. So a lot of people are overwhelmed into not doing anything about it. So, so again, we try to bring about awareness, and then right behind that, follow it up with ways that you can make a difference.
Sure. Yeah. I was going to ask, in all your studying, in the different places that you looked at, what made you choose the particular locations that you chose? Was it the number of children that were engaged there? You said you had seen a lot of statistics on where the most were, et cetera. What guided your choice?
I had a friend who was involved in orphanages in El Salvador and Haiti, and I knew I already had connections in those two places. So when we first started, those seemed like obvious places. I mean, there are children all over the world, in every country, including right here in the United States, that desperately need families. So, you know, we wanted to minister not just to one particular area, but to different areas in here local as well. So we do have a local ministry, and we started out in El Salvador. Our very first trip was in 2007, and we thought, well, we'll make one international trip a year, and we had 11 women went on the very first trip, and now we've taken over 500, and we take about 10 to 12 international trips a year.
10 to 12 a
That's
year.
a lot.
Yes.
That is amazing.
It has, yes, it has exploded.
That must keep you really, really busy.
It does. We are very busy, but we have lots of volunteers, and we need lots more.
Okay. Are these are short-term trips, I assume, a week long, 3 to 5 days?
Yes, a week to 2 weeks, depending on where the trip goes to. El Salvador and Haiti, the travel times are so short that you can get there really quick, and you know, you don't have to be away from home for more than like a week at a time. So usually those run from Saturday to Saturday. With the exception of the local schools, we take some of the public local high school groups, and those trips are a little shorter. They're 4 or 5 days because the kids can't be out of school that long. But then the trips to like Africa and India, those are more like 2-week trips. 10
I saw the
days to 2
listing on
weeks.
your website that you guys were looking to do a trip to India. Is that in the works, or have you already done that?
No, it's in the works. We're hoping to send a team there.
So, Laura, Starfish Orphan Ministry has several different components, as I understand.
It does.
The mission trips to orphanages in different parts of the world is one facet, and then you also work with fostering, is that right?
We have a mentor program.
Okay.
Right now, it's a little uncertain as to where that is going because the state has dropped funding on that. We were working with the state, and they have dropped funding on the mentoring program. We were working with Murray State University, but they're backing out. So now we're discussing with local organizations that do foster care, religious organizations, on how we can continue and that mentor program. But it was mentoring children that are in foster care, that don't have a lot of people in their lives that are consistent, and it requires 1 hour a week on average for a commitment of 6 months to start with. And adults that have had background checks can mentor a child.
Okay, so Starfish is really a comprehensive look at ways to impact the lives of a child, a child in need.
Exactly.
And I want to get back to the mission trips because I think we want to spend a little bit of time there today. How do people get involved, and what do you do when you get there? When you get to the location, what is your goal while you're there?
Well, we have, like I said, over 500 people from the Paducah area have been, and now we're starting to take lots of people from other states. They hear about us through different websites, through our Facebook, and we're having people meet us, and travel. As a matter of fact, next month we're taking a group, and we have people from 4 different states that are converging in Houston and then going over together. So anyone can go. They have to fill out an application, and their desire has to be sincere. So once they finish the application process, then they can go on our trips, and we go there with an arsenal of kind of like vacation Bible school type activities.
Okay.
But then we do whatever is needed once we get there. So we can pull from that if we need it. But then again, we may go there and be painting or building. We've started building houses in the past year and a half. We've been involved in building probably about 10 houses. We do wooden homes for those that do not own their property. Because those can be moved, and then we do concrete homes for those who do own their own property, and those are called forever homes. Now, the way we choose who we build a home for is that the government gives us a list, or gives our missionary there a list on who is earmarked to possibly have their children taken away because of extreme poverty, malnutrition, that sort of thing.
So they're prioritized.
So you go to the list, and our missionary looks at the list, and he goes and visits those people on the list and determines who would be most likely to be successful. Who is a home going to prevent the child, in which situation is a home going to prevent the child from being taken from that family and put in an orphanage. So if you can keep a child out of an orphanage, it's so much better, because children in orphanages are almost always abused in so many different ways. And so if we can prevent orphans, it's just wonderful. So we're really excited to be involved in those homes for families. Then we also, we have local people that sponsor transition homes in El Salvador, where we take a lot of our trips, and we'll go down there and get the transition home ready and furnish it, and then now a transition home is a home where there would be 1 or 2 people overseeing the home, and then kids, when they age out of the orphanages, they would have hope. They would have a place to go and stay, and they can stay there for up to 2 years and learn a trade and learn how to navigate a bus, how to keep a house, how to do all the things that we learned as children, with our families.
Sure. And you're working in conjunction with other organizations in doing that, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Is there a particular organization that does the transition program?
In El Salvador, it's called Sus Hijos.
Sus Hijos.
His children. And we work very closely with them. The director of Sus Hijos has been a missionary there for 9 years, and he hosts all of our teams that go there. In Haiti, we work with an organization called Lifeline. They're out of Clay City, Kentucky. So we have different
somebody
people
on the ground in every location that you go to.
Absolutely.
And you work through that local organization, and there's a plan for when you arrive, what the goal is going to be for that particular length of time.
Yes, and we try to make our trips as safe as possible. We carry with us everyone's application and a copy of their passport, and a list of every medical every doctor that's recommended by the embassy for every medical ailment that anyone could have while on the trip. we try to work very closely with the governments there, and
I'm sure that's key.
it is, and we feel like we can offer a safe environment for our teams.
For those who might want to go in and engage themselves in that particular way, what kind of a cost range does it appear to be for one who wants to go over and help out?
Usually anywhere from, it has been as low as $1,000 on up to, for the trips to Africa and India would be $2,500 to $3,000. So anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on where you're going and how long the trip is. And
Sure.
You start planning quite in advance, I would think, for an individual trip, and so people who are interested in going should get in contact with you and find out what's coming up. And I'm sure that there are procedures like shots and things like that that have to take place before they could go, and the paperwork and so forth. So they need to get with you how far out in advance of a trip?
Anywhere from 6 months down to even, we've had people join trips 2 months in advance. There's an October trip that's coming up. I mean, we have a trip next month, but there's an October trip that we're just starting to sign people up for. So.
Okay. And do you go on all of them, Laura, or do you get to go every time?
No,
or no?
I don't go every time. My husband leads a lot of them, and we have other volunteers at Starfish that lead trips as well. So. They're always experienced people that have been on numerous trips, but we're very careful, and we purchase medical insurance on every person who goes, medical evacuation insurance, and we try to make the trip exciting and fun, but safe too.
Sure.
And it's like a roller coaster of emotions. We always go into at least 3 orphanages on every trip, and we are constantly evaluating needs that we can meet long term and short term, and it's just really exciting.
I'm sitting here thinking it must be hard to leave sometimes, you know, after you've been there, and so many of those children must really just touch your heart in a very deep way, and then how hard must it be to then say, gotta go. You know, God bless this child that I may never see again, but who I have come to know for this brief little window. Wow.
I think it's the good that we do, that we are blessed to get to do and see, that keeps you going. You know, it is very painful sometimes, but it's also very joyful at times, and very rewarding to get to see children's lives changed.
Yes, yes. Here's a question for you. Of all of the trips you have taken and all of the 500 people who have participated, how many have resulted in an adoption?
We have 2 that have came home, and 1 that is hopefully going to come home, we hope and pray, just very, very soon. That's not our goal. Now, if it happens, it's a huge blessing, and to get to go to to see those children here and see them in Christmas programs at church, and see them play soccer, and see them with their families loving on them is just such a blessing. But that's not our actual goal. Is not to put families and children together. There are organizations and people who do that, but that's not what we do.
Right.
Now we do have an adoption resource program.
Tell us about that.
Well, the Dave Thomas Foundation did a poll on the streets, and they asked people, have you ever considered adoption? 40% had considered it. 2% had done it. Then they asked, where would you go for more information if you wanted to adopt? The number 1 answer was my church or house of worship. But churches around here, most of them do not have information on adoption. So we try to be that bridge, and we hope that the churches here locally will send people to us. And we even have attorneys here local that send people to us for resources and information on adoption and foster care.
So you can provide some guidance on how in the world do you get started and
Exactly.
what to anticipate and
Exactly. It can
hold
be a
on,
very,
don't panic, that kind of thing. That's
it can be a
good.
very
Yeah.
difficult road,
Yes.
and we can, give people information on that and help them learn how to navigate that system, and then we can hold their hand, while they're going through the process and
Yeah.
offer support.
Yes, yes. Now, how would people get in touch with Starfish Orphan Ministry, get in touch with you, Laura, that want more information, want to stop by? Where are you located? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
We are blessed to have a very large space at 1000 Broadway. We are on the second floor. It's the Ferguson building on Broadway. And we are usually there, someone is usually there from say 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're all volunteer. We're 100% volunteer organization. But they could also call. The number is 270-519-7340.
Okay.
And then we have a website, starfishorphanministry.org. We also have a blog that follows our trips.
You mentioned about your funding. Out of curiosity, my wife and I both enjoy running. We were on the website and we saw that you guys do a couple of 5 and 10K runs. What are some opportunities that people can help out in that way?
Well, the race that we have every year, the 5 and 10K and Children's Fun Run, that requires lots of volunteers.
Sure.
It takes about 60 to 70 volunteers to put that on. We also do barbecue on the river every year. We sell cookies, brownies, cupcakes. That takes about 60, 70, 80 volunteers to do that.
Lots of cookies needed.
Yes. There's lots of volunteer opportunities. We have volunteer opportunities on a daily basis at the office. We have a clothing room and a housewares and furniture room where we provide to single parent families or families that are struggling, or kids that have aged out of foster care can come get free clothes and housewares and furniture. So there's constant volunteer opportunities with that.
Yes.
So there's just lots of ways people can volunteer. We do a lot of fundraisers throughout the year to try to raise money to meet the needs that we come across. And then also, as far as operating expenses, the Carson Meyer Foundation blesses us with operating expenses each year, and that enables us to operate on where when people donate money to our organization, like 100% of it goes to meet the needs of children, because we are 100% volunteer, and we get that grant from the Carson Meyer
And
Foundation.
your space for your office is provided. Okay. So what we're looking at here, what we need is funds, donations, financial donations, volunteers, and other types of donations such as furniture. Do you accept clothing? What else is needed? And would they just come to that office at 1000 Broadway?
That is great, yes. Now, if they call ahead, we can arrange to meet them in the rear where we have an elevator, where we can take the stuff from them on the loading dock, and we take it upstairs. We're very blessed to have 20,000 square feet of space where we get to keep all this stuff.
I've been up there and I've seen that big area you have. It's like a warehouse. It's really cool.
Yes, for us it's an event space too, and it's just a fabulous space, and we're so thankful to have it and to have it provided for us. The Catterjohn family is very generous to allow us to operate there very inexpensively.
Okay, well, we're just about out of time, but one quick question. In 10 years from now, Laura, what would you like to see have evolved since during that time? Where would you like to see it be in 10 years?
I just can't even imagine, because 7 years ago I did not expect how blessed we've been and what all we would be doing now. So I really just can't even imagine, and we just really try to allow God to guide us, and that's our prayer, that it would be, that He would bless it in a way that it would be obvious that it were Him and not us.
I totally understand that.
I have one small question, but it's been killing me the whole time. Starfish is a crazy name. So is there a story behind the name?
There is. There's this fable, if you will. Old man walking down the beach after a horrible storm the night before. There are millions of starfish washed up on the beach. He's walking along. He sees a figure in the distance. He gets up close. It's a child. The child's throwing something in the ocean. He asks the child, "What are you doing?" And the child says, "I'm saving the starfish so they won't die." And he's picking up the child picks up a starfish and throws it in the ocean, and the man says, "But you can't possibly make a difference. Look at all these millions of starfish." And the child picks up another one and throws it in the ocean, and he says, "I made a difference for that one."
I love
So
that.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
we
one child at a time.
We can't fix the problem of 150 plus million children in the world without a family, but we can help some of them. You know, we can help them one at a time, and that's what we're inviting people to come alongside us and do.
Laura, this is so compelling and such a wonderful God-led, God-spirited ministry. Thank you for being with us today. Real quick, one more word on how to contact you, where you're located.
We are at 1000 Broadway on the second floor, and you can reach us at 270-519-7340 or 270-748-6970.
Well, it's clear that Starfish Orphan Ministry is an important work, and we're grateful to have you in our community. And thank you for being on the Reflections program today. And Scott, thank you also.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to
fun.
doing some additional programs, and thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting with you again on some other programs that spotlight the works of faith in our community. And all of us together can work to do God's work with human hands. It's something we say a lot down at PCM, but anybody can do it. And when we do it community by community, we all make this world a much better place. And may you find joy and peace in your day today. And please remember that the work you do with your hands today is very important. And we'll see you next time.
In mission.